Hey guys, tonight we're sinking back in time not to a royal court or a bustling cathedral, but to the lowliest, quietest corner of history. Imagine you're waking up inside a one-room hut in a medieval village, the air thick with smoke from the hearth, your feet wrapped in rough wool, your belly already rumbling. This isn't the world of kings and feasts. It's the world of dirt floors, aching backs, and a kind of hunger that never really goes away. And you're about to live one day in the life of a peasant. Just one day. One long, laborious, stomach-growling day. And yes, you probably wouldn't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tell me in the comments where you're listening from, and what time it is right now. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first rays of sun don't exactly greet you. They creep in through the smoke hole above your head, slicing through the blackened air with the chill of a new morning. You're wrapped in a lumpy straw mattress, shared with two siblings, a couple of fleas, and if you're lucky, your mother's old wool blanket. Your stomach groans even before you open your eyes. There's no such thing as breakfast waiting on a plate. No fire yet either. Just the bitter tang of soot and the scent of damp earth. You get up because there's no reason to lie still. The day begins whether you like it or not. Your first meal, or what passes for it, isn't something you eat. It's something you prepare while moving. You reach for yesterday's chunk of stale, coarse bread, probably from barley or rye, hard as a stone and darker than you'd expect. You gnaw at it while pulling on your tunic, heavier wool in winter threadbare linen in warmer seasons. This isn't for flavor. It's for function. Your body needs something to get going. You feel it already. That empty space in your gut that yesterday's meal never quite filled. It's a dull companion always present. But it won't kill you, not yet. Out you go. The door is just a wooden plank. The village is half asleep, but you're already behind. If your family has a small garden plot, you check it. Maybe there's still cabbage hanging on from last season, or leeks, or wild herbs you gathered in secret from the woods when no one was looking. But for now, there's something bubbling in the clay pot above the hearth left from last night's fire. You tilt the lid, and the smell wafts up watery pottage, the catch-all meal. Grains boiled into mush with chopped turnip, maybe a few wild greens or an onion if you're fortunate. No meat. Not this early in the week. Not unless someone's animal died, which you wouldn't wish for, but also kind of would. You sip it carefully. It's not hot, just lukewarm. It slides down heavy and tasteless, but it fills a little of that space inside you. Then it's time for labor. The fields are waiting. If you're tied to a manor, you don't own what you sow. You work it for someone else. The Lord, the church. You get a small strip for yourself, but most of your effort feeds another man's house. You shoulder your tools, dull iron-splintered wood. You chew the last of the crust while walking. There's no break room, no packed lunch. Instead, by mid-morning, your stomach growls again. You look forward to what's called bever. A light snack, often just a pause and maybe a sip of small ale. Yes, you drink ale. Not for fun, but because the water isn't safe. The weak ale is barely alcoholic, but it's enough to make the water tolerable. If you're lucky, someone passed by the mill yesterday, and there's a bit of oatcake left over. You find it in your pocket, broken, crumbling, slightly sour. You chew it slowly, savoring the texture more than the taste. You think about feast days. You think about when Brother Thomas gave you a small wedge of cheese, a full egg, once even a roasted sparrow. But that was rare, unusual. a holiday miracle. Today is not that day. Back to the fields, you work through the heat. The sun climbs and the air smells of earth and sweat, and something slightly metallic from the plow. You can hear other peasants grunting. A few curse under their breath. A baby cries in the distance. And always beneath the sweat, beneath the rhythm of the scythe, beneath the sound of your own breath, there's the echo of hunger. Not starvation, just insufficient fullness. Always. By midday, it's time for the main meal dinner in medieval terms, not supper. This is the biggest thing you'll eat today. You go home. Your legs ache. Inside the hearth, fire has been stirred back to life, and the pottage pot has been filled again, more barley perhaps thickened with old peas. This time your mother found a carrot, or what's left of one. She stirs it in like treasure. Maybe she added a scrap of bacon rind from the smokehouse used more for flavor than substance. There are no spices except salt if you can afford it, and perhaps garlic from your own patch. You eat with your hands or with a shared wooden spoon. You sit on a stool or maybe on the floor. The bowl is passed around. You're careful not to take too much. Everyone is watching. And when it's done, you're not full. You're just not empty. And that in this world is a success. You rinse the bowl with a bit of ale, wipe your hands on your tunic, and step back outside. The afternoon is waiting. The afternoon sun hangs high, warming your shoulders as you return to the fields. Your stomach isn't full, it never really is, but at least it's quieted for now. You try not to think about food as you lean into the work again, gripping the wooden handle of the hoe, pushing through the earth in slow, deliberate strokes. You feel every knot in your spine. You feel the blisters, some old and calloused, some just forming fresh today. But your mind does wander, doesn't it? You think about bread, not the stale barley lump you had this morning, but real wheat bread, the kind the Lord's household gets, fine, pale, soft inside. You've seen it once or twice. You've even smelled it drifting from the manor kitchen like something from heaven itself. You think of butter. You've heard it spoken of. Maybe someone in the next village makes it. Not your family. Your family doesn't have a cow. You bend down to weed the furrows and the green scent of crushed dandelion stings your nose. It reminds you some folks boil them and eat them. Leaves, flowers, roots, nothing is wasted in this world. Hunger is the master of creativity. Sometimes you pretend you're a monk, not for the praying, but because monks get fed. They have gardens and saltfish and wheels of cheese stacked in storerooms. You've heard they even get wine on holy days. You don't really believe it, but it's nice to imagine. Still here you are, arms aching, lips dry, throat coated in dust, and you keep going. Because there's no stopping. Not if you want a bowl of gruel tonight. Later in the afternoon, someone calls out from a distance. You straighten up. The reeve is checking the rows. You nod, keep your head down. You don't want trouble. Trouble means fines, and fines mean no grain. Or worse grain taken from you. There's a small pause in work. Bever again. You crouch by the edge of the field and pull out a small hunk of something wrapped in cloth. It's not yours. It's been passed down from your father's hand just before he turned back to the fencing near the sheep pens. It's yesterday's pottage, thickened and cooled until it can be cut into slices. You eat it with your fingers. It's firm, mealy, and still somehow tastes like cabbage and grit. You wash it down with a sip of ale warmer now. You swish it in your mouth, trying to fool yourself into thinking it's a meal. Then back to work. You wonder what the Lord eats. You've never been in his hall, but there's talk. Roasted meats, chickens stuffed with herbs, sweet pastries with honey, trenchers carved fresh from white bread and tossed away afterward tossed, as if bread could be garbage. You'd eat the plate and call it a feast, but that's not for you. You're a villain, bound to the land, bound to the barley and the turnips and the endless cycle of sowing and harvesting and hoping the rats don't get to it before the priest blesses it. Your teeth hurt. They always do, from the grit in the flour. You know this even if you don't say it. The hand mill leaves behind specks of stone. You grind it in your mouth with every bite. You've already lost a few teeth, and you're not even old. By the time the sun begins to slide westward, the light turns gold, and the air smells of dust, sweat, and hay. Work slows. You walk home slowly, sore and silent. Inside, your mother is boiling water again. This time for supper. You don't expect anything special. Just another round of pottage. Maybe this one has nettles in it. Or beans. Maybe she's saved a bit of bacon grease to stir in and trick your tongue into thinking it's richer than it is. You sit near the hearth and stretch your legs. Your hands are trembling slightly. You haven't had meat in weeks. Not proper meat. Just hints of it, bones boiled twice or dried sausage slices from some distant feast day. You try not to care. But your body remembers the taste. Salt, fat, protein. You crave it with a deep ache. Your little sister arrives with a bowl. She gives it to you and sits beside you, waiting for her turn. You hold the warm pottery in your hands like it's sacred. The heat sinks into your skin. You lift a spoonful to your mouth. It's watery, but there's a hint of garlic tonight. Maybe she found some in the woods. You chew a chunk of root vegetable, soft, bland, but at least it has texture. You eat slowly. You savor what's there. You scrape the bowl with a crust of rye bread and chew it down to the last flake. Your stomach groans for more, but there isn't more. You pass the bowl back and wipe your lips. Someone outside is walking past, singing a tavern tune. You can't remember the last time you had coin for ale or a reason to sing. You go out into the night air. It's cool now, and the sky is turning lavender. You squat near the garden where the onions are just sprouting. You check on them even though you know they haven't changed since yesterday. But it gives you something to do. You think about tomorrow. What will there be to eat more of the same? Maybe something from the forest. If your brother finds mushrooms that aren't poisonous, maybe a neighbor will trade a few apples for help mending his fence. Or maybe not. You scratch your arm, flea bite. You try not to itch it, but you do anyway. You glance at the chickens huddled in the pen. They're thin, too. You count them idly, wondering if one might die of natural causes soon. But that's a risk. Stealing from the manor's poultry is dangerous. So you shake the thought loose. You go back inside. The fire is dying. The smell of cooked roots lingers in the air. You lie down on the straw mattress again, curling into your usual corner. Your stomach settles into its usual half-full ache. It's not painful, not sharp, just constant. You fall asleep listening to the sounds of others shifting in the dark. A child coughs. Someone mutters in a dream. Outside, an owl hoots, and you wonder not for the first time if there's more to life than barley gruel and aching hands. But you'll think about that tomorrow, when you're hungry again. Dawn doesn't so much arrive as it presses down, heavy, inevitable. You stir in the dim light, already awake before your eyes even open. Your body knows. It remembers the rhythm, the ache, the hunger. You rise slowly. The mattress clings to you with its prickly straw. Someone shifted in the night, and your corner is damp with sweat. You don't mention it. You just stand, stretch your arms overhead, and wait for the bones to stop complaining. The hearth is nothing but cooled ash. No warmth, no smell. Just the ghost of yesterday's fire. You reach for your tunic stiff from yesterday's grime. You pull it over your head and shake your arms loose. Then you glance toward the small wooden shelf by the door. There it is. A small hunk of yesterday's rye loaf. Coarser than anything you'd call bread today. Dense. Flat. The crust is so hard it might break a tooth. You don't care. You pick it up and take a bite, letting the crumbs fall down your chin. No butter, no jam, not even broth. Just dry bread and air. But you're used to this. Outside, the light is gray. Dew clings to the grass, and the path to the field is slick underfoot. You chew as you walk the bread, softening in your mouth only slightly. You remember once, long ago, someone added honey to a loaf. It was a wedding, a special day. The sweetness hit your tongue like a blessing from God. Today is not a wedding. It's Tuesday or Wednesday. The days bleed together. The only real way to track them is the church bell, the feast days, and the planting cycle. But all of them still begin like this, with dry bread and a dull ache. You reach the edge of the field and nod to the others. No one talks much in the morning. There's nothing to say. You bend down and begin the work again, pulling weeds, turning soil, scattering seed, watching the birds steal what they can before you chase them off. Later, someone offers you a turnip, small, misshapen, half rotten on one end. You break it in two and chew on the cleaner half, letting the other rot in the ditch. You won't eat it, but the pigs might. You keep going. At midday, you return to the hut. The fire's going again barely. Your mother has warmed something in the pot. You can smell it before you see it: lentils, boiled into paste. They're better than most meals, filling, earthy, soft enough for sore teeth. There's a bit of wild thyme in there too, from the edge of the village green. You dip your bread into the pot, watching it soak and darken. Then you bring it to your mouth. It's warm. For a moment, it's almost satisfying. Your younger brother whispers something. Someone's goose was found dead this morning. He heard it in the lane. They think it was foxes. But you wonder, maybe it was hungry hands. People talk, people lie, people get desperate. You know better than to ask about it out loud. After lunch, your mother takes what's left of the lentils and pours it into a cloth-lined bowl. She'll cool it and save it for tomorrow, if it keeps, if the rats don't get to it first. You leave again. Back to the field. The same dirt, the same weeds, the same effort. The sun burns your back now, and sweat trickles between your shoulder blades. You pause to sip from a leather flask more small ale. The taste is flat, but it washes down the dust. You spot a hedgerow not far from the edge of the path. There, hidden beneath the shade, are a few wild berries, brambles, or blackberries maybe. You check the thorns first, then the birds. Then you pluck a handful and eat them on the spot. Sharp, sweet, just enough to light up your senses. You don't tell anyone. It's your secret meal. 5 berries, maybe 6, they stain your tongue purple, and for a moment you feel full in a way you rarely do. Back at home that evening, there's something new. A pot of peas thickened with crushed oats. Your mother found a bit of pig fat to stir in, rendered down from a piece saved months ago. It floats in a thin swirl on the surface, just enough to make the soup look glossy. You sit with your legs crossed and eat from the shared bowl. You count the peas in each bite. You chew slowly. You close your eyes. It's good. Not luxurious, not rich, but good. Your sister offers you the heel of the loaf, the last piece. You break it in half and give it back. She doesn't thank you. She just eats. Gratitude isn't spoken much here. Survival is assumed. That night you lie back in your corner of the mattress and listen. To the wind against the door. To the creak of the roof. To the sound of someone further down the village vomiting into the ditch. You wonder if it's illness, or hunger, or both. You roll onto your side and stare at the wall. You think about bread again. White bread. Real bread. The kind they make in abbeys and manor kitchens. The kind that crumbles when torn, not cracks. You've never had it, but you've seen it once. During Easter. It was passed out to the poor just once. You remember the way it melted in your mouth. You remember the ache that came after knowing you'd never taste it again. You sigh and close your eyes. Your stomach isn't full. It's not even comfortable. But it's manageable. And tomorrow, if the garden grows, and if the hens lay, and if the pot doesn't go empty, you'll eat again. Not much, but enough. And in this world, that's a victory. You wake before the sun again, but this time with a different sort of urgency in your belly. Not hunger it never really left, but a tension. The kind that says today might bring something more. Or at least different. Word slipped through the village yesterday, a traveling merchant has arrived. He's set up just beyond the chapel near the edge of the green. No one knows how long he'll stay. Maybe a day. Maybe until the priest tells him to move along. But he brings goods. And sometimes, just sometimes, he brings food. You throw on your tunic still crusted with dust from yesterday and gnaw a chunk off the hard bread saved from last night's meal. You chew mechanically, your jaw already tired. The grain in the bread isn't just coarse, it's mixed with sand. Not on purpose. It comes from the millstones worn down over time. You've heard of people whose teeth cracked in their 20s from it. But there's no other option. You eat the grit. You swallow the ache. You finish dressing and slip out before your father notices. The path to the green is muddy from last night's rain, and your feet sink into the earth with each step. You arrive just as the merchant is arranging his wares, mostly iron tools, wool scraps, some beads and trinkets. But then you see it. Tucked beneath a cloth, a small basket of dried apples. You stare. The smell alone feels like a dream. You haven't tasted apple in weeks. Not since the last orchard harvest, long since dried out or gone to vinegar. You ask the price. He looks you over and says something far too high. You don't have coin, but you have something better, an extra pair of wool stockings your sister knit last winter. You offer them folded neatly. The merchant weighs them in his hands. He shrugs, then nods. And suddenly, the basket is yours. You don't eat the apples all at once. That would be madness. Instead, you carry them in the crook of your arm like treasure and walk slowly back toward your hut. Each step is deliberate. You're already planning it, how to stretch them, how to savor them. You arrive back just as your mother is ladling out breakfast thin broth with barley scrapings and maybe a pinch of salt. She sees the apples and raises an eyebrow. You hand her one. She smiles but says nothing. That's how love looks here. You each take a slice and chew together in silence. The apple is leathery, a bit tart, and still clings to sweetness. It softens in your mouth, sticky and familiar. You close your eyes as you chew just for a moment. It tastes like autumn, like something fresh, like memory. You eat only 2 slices and wrap the rest back in the cloth. They'll last the week if you're careful. The morning labor resumes. You and your brother head to the grain bins, checking for signs of weevils. Then to the henhouse where only one egg has been laid today. Just one. You take it back like a relic. Your mother decides to use it in tonight's pottage, mashed and stirred in at the end. It won't change the flavor much, but it will thicken it. And more importantly, it will feel like something new. Lunch is the same as always, more barley stew, but the egg gives it a pale color, richer. You each get one wooden bowl, and the scraping at the bottom tastes the best. You lick the spoon, and then the bowl, not caring who watches. In the afternoon, you walk to the edge of the woods to gather kindling. You're not supposed to. The Lord claims even fallen branches belong to Him. But you move quietly. Step over moss. Avoid the dry twigs until you're sure no one's watching. That's when you see it beneath a bramble wild sorrel. You crouch, heart quickening. Sorrel leaves are sharp with flavor, tangy like lemon. Not filling, but bright. You pick a handful and stuff them into your pocket. Back home you toss them into the pot for supper, and your mother raises her brow again. Where she asks, you shrug. She doesn't press. Dinner that night is the same base of pottage, but the sorrel cuts through the blandness. It lifts the taste just barely, but enough to notice. Enough to make someone say, "What's that?" with a little hope in their voice. You sit by the fire afterward, legs tucked under your tunic, and pull out another slice of dried apple. This time you don't chew it quickly. You hold it on your tongue. Let it soften. Let it bloom. Food becomes ritual in a world like this. Every bite is counted. Every meal remembered. There's no such thing as eating without thinking. Each mouthful carries weight because it's effort, because it's risk, because it's precious. Later your uncle visits. He brings news. A hog was slaughtered at the far end of the village. A family with too many mouths couldn't feed it through winter. They've already salted most of it, but they're selling off a few small cuts. You know what this means. Tomorrow you'll try to trade for some. You have 2 carrots still buried in the garden bed, plus a strip of cloth your mother's been saving. It might be enough. It has to be enough. Because meat, real meat, is rare. Not scraps, not bones, but a piece you can chew and taste and feel in your limbs after. That night as you lie in bed, you can almost taste it already. You imagine the sizzle, the crackle, the scent of fat dripping into the fire. You've eaten meat maybe 5 times this year. Each time it stayed with you for days. And now maybe, just maybe, you'll get to taste it again. You roll onto your side and pull the blanket close. Your stomach hums with the memory of sorrel and apple. Not full, not quite, but not empty either. You fall asleep thinking of pork and praying the carrots are enough. You wake with a strange energy in your chest. Hope, maybe, or hunger sharpened by anticipation. Either way, the sky is still dark, but your eyes are open. There's no time to waste. The carrots are still in the ground, buried beneath a layer of straw to keep the frost from biting too deep. You dress in silence, grab a small spade, and head out into the mist. The village is hushed. Even the dogs aren't stirring yet. You reach the garden plot and kneel in the dirt, fingers numb, as you peel back the straw and dig. The first carrot comes out clean, firm orange, streaked with black soil. The second one is thinner, crooked, but solid. You brush them off carefully and place them in your satchel. Then you run back inside before the frost gets into your bones. Your mother is already up. She hands you a strip of linen freshly woven, if a little coarse. It's enough to trade. Maybe. You sling the satchel over your shoulder and set out toward the far end of the village where smoke rises gently from a small thatched roof. The house of the butcher, or rather the peasant, who became one out of necessity. He only butchers when there's something to butcher, and that's rare. But today he has pork. Real pork. You arrive to find two others already waiting outside, both with baskets in their hands, both eyeing the doorway like it's a chapel. You nod. No one speaks. Eventually the door creaks open, and the man steps out, wiping his hands on a cloth already stained with blood. He looks you over. The others too. Then he points at you. You have something to trade. You nod and offer up the cloth and carrots. He takes them, weighs them in his hands like fruit, then disappears inside. A moment later, he returns with a small, paper-wrapped bundle. Grease is already seeping through the sides. He hands it to you with no words. You don't ask what cut it is. It doesn't matter. You carry it home like a treasure from the Holy Land. At the hearth, your mother unwraps the parcel and lifts the meat with reverent hands. It's not big, maybe the size of your palm. A shoulder scrap. A little fat, a thin edge of muscle, a hint of bone. Enough for a single stew. Enough for everyone to get a bite. She sets it aside while she prepares the pot. Barley peas, wild greens you foraged earlier, and a handful of lentils. Once the broth starts bubbling, she slides the meat in and lets it simmer. The scent is instant and overwhelming. You sit by the fire and just breathe. The fat renders into the liquid, turning it cloudy and golden. The meat shrinks slightly as it cooks, curling inward like a clenched fist. You can almost taste it already, salty rich, the kind of thing that lingers long after it's gone. When it's time, you each get a bowl. You stare at it first. There, floating in the middle of your pottage, is a thin sliver of meat. You fish it out with your fingers, just for a moment. You hold it up to the light like it's a relic. Then you drop it back into the broth and take a sip. The taste hits your tongue with a sudden depth. Earthy. Warm. The fat clings to your lips. It tastes of fire and patience. You chew slowly. You don't speak. No one does. It's a kind of communion. Afterward, your stomach feels different. Not full, but awake. As if some forgotten part of you has stirred from sleep. You lick the bowl, then the spoon. Even the smell lingering on your fingertips feels like a gift. You stretch your legs and lean against the hearth. Your sister hums to herself. Your brother taps the bowl like a drum. For just a few minutes, life feels rich. Not because it is, but because of that one greasy sliver of meat. Later that day, work resumes. Of course it does. The field doesn't care what you've eaten. But your body moves with a little more vigor. Your arms don't ache as soon. Your back straightens without protest. You feel the strength of the meal in your limbs. Evening falls and the sun paints the sky with long bands of crimson. Supper is plain again, just leftover barley mash served cool and lumpy. But you don't mind. You still taste the pork in your mind. You carry it with you, and that night someone knocks on the door. It's your cousin. She's bringing news. Father Bernard is planning a special mass for the feast of St. Cuthbert. That means there might be alms, bread, maybe even cheese. You listen closely. Feast days are miracles. On those days, the line between you and the Lord's table thins ever so slightly. The church prepares loaves. The manor hands out scraps. Sometimes there's soup in great kettles. And if you're lucky, maybe a leftover meat bone or a crust from the Lord's trencher. You go to bed thinking about it, planning, dreaming. In your pocket, you've still got one slice of dried apple. You touch it softly through the cloth and smile. Tomorrow is another chance, another bowl, another bite. another memory of fullness. You curl up in your corner and close your eyes. The pork is still on your tongue. You sleep easier than you have in weeks. The feast day begins not with celebration, but with waiting. The sun rises slowly, and so do you, rubbing your eyes and shaking straw from your hair. Your body's still sore but lighter somehow. The promise of food, of something different, lifts you. You wash your face with cold water from the basin, and the shock of it clears your mind. Your mother is already awake, warming what's left of the barley mash from last night. There's not much, just enough for a few spoonfuls each. You eat it slowly, staring out the narrow slit of a window, trying to guess what's being prepared down at the church. Feast days don't happen often, but when they do, they change everything, even if just for a few hours. The priest will say Mass. There will be prayers and incense, and then if the church is feeling generous, there will be a meal. You wear your cleaner tunic, which still smells faintly of smoke. It's been patched so many times it's nearly a quilt, but the seams hold. You smooth the fabric as best you can and head toward the chapel with your family. The path is already busy. Neighbors walking in small groups, children darting ahead in excitement. There's a different energy today. Eyes are wider, steps quicker. Everyone is thinking the same thing. Maybe today we'll eat something new. Mass is long. Father Bernard's voice is slow and thick. You try to listen, but your thoughts drift. The smell of baked bread sneaks in through the open doors. Your stomach reacts before your mind does, tightening, then growling loud enough for your brother to nudge you. When the service ends, you file out into the churchyard where tables have been laid with coarse cloth. Large pots steam near the rear entrance, and 2 servants from the manor carry baskets toward the gathering crowd. This is the moment you've been waiting for. You line up, heart pounding. The first servant ladles thick soup into wooden bowls. It's bean-based from the look of it, and fragrant with herbs. Not wild ones, either cultivated herbs. Real parsley. Maybe sage. The second servant offers slices of bread, not the dark, hard rye of home, but pale, soft loaves made from milled wheat. You stare at it. It doesn't seem real. Your turn comes. The bowl is heavy in your hands. The steam curls into your face. You move aside, sit in the grass beneath the wall, and bring the spoon to your lips. The taste is deep, warm, savory. There's garlic, maybe leeks, a richness that suggests someone had a bone or two to boil. You close your eyes as you sip again. You let the liquid linger in your mouth. Every fiber of your being focuses on this moment. Then the bread. You tear a piece and feel the difference immediately. It doesn't resist like your usual loaves. It yields. The crust is chewy, not rock-like. The inside is white, almost creamy. You chew slowly, mouth flooded with flavor, and the kind of softness you forgot bread could have. You eat it all. Every drop of soup, every crumb of bread. You even lick the bowl. Later, as people begin to drift away, you stay seated. You watch others do the same, lounging in the grass full for the first time in weeks. There's laughter, quiet conversation. The kind of warmth that only comes from shared hunger finally eased. Someone pulls out a pipe and plays a low, slow tune. A few children dance. For a brief stretch of time, the village feels lighter, softer, like the earth is kind again. Eventually, you return home. The afternoon is slow. No work today. It's a holy day, and the fields rest with you. Your father snores in his seat. Your mother is spinning wool hands, moving gently, rhythmically. You lie near the hearth and rub your belly, still warm from the soup. Supper is simple, just water boiled with a bit of cabbage. You don't mind. You're still full, still glowing with the memory of that white bread. As the fire dims and night returns, your thoughts drift to what's left. You have half a slice of dried apple tucked in your satchel. One last bite of sweetness. You chew it in the dark, quietly, eyes half closed. The day's meal still hums in your blood. You stretch, sigh, and let yourself sink into the straw, not with the usual ache of hunger, but with something softer. Satisfaction. A rare feeling. You chase it into your dreams. The days that follow don't taste like feast day. They taste like return, like sour barley and rough crust, like the echo of something you once had, now fading. You wake with the same hunger again, the same scraping in your gut. And for a moment, you think of the bean soup, the softness of the bread. But it's a memory now, nothing more. This morning, you eat what's left of the boiled cabbage from the night before. Cold, limp, and slightly bitter. It hasn't spoiled, but it's close. Still, you chew it slowly, grateful for the bulk it offers. You rinse your mouth with a few sips of ale that has gone a little flat. The weather's turning. You feel it in your fingers as you pull on your tunic. The wind is sharper today. Dry. And with that dryness comes a kind of warning. Soon the ground will be too hard to dig, the green will fade, and the food will change again. The summer greens are mostly gone now. The wild herbs have withered back into the soil. What you have left are roots, tough, starchy, durable things that can survive a frost and stretch across the hungry months. Turnips, parsnips, maybe a few onions. You head into the field after your small breakfast, joining the others near the boundary wall. Today is a gleaning day. The harvest is over, but the law allows you to gather what the reapers missed. It's back-breaking, humbling work, combing the earth for forgotten grains, dropped ears of barley, or split pods. Sometimes you find a few kernels stuck in the mud. Sometimes nothing at all. You crouch for hours, your knees stiff, your hands caked in cold soil. You gather what little there is into a cloth sack. By noon, your stomach starts to protest again. There's no real lunch, just a small piece of oatcake your mother packed earlier. Dry and slightly sour, it cracks when you bite into it, and for a second, your gums sting. You chew and swallow and take a swig of ale warm from your hip. You sit by a hedgerow to rest your back against the brambles and glance at the sky. Pale gray. It feels like it might rain. You wonder if the mushrooms will return beneath the old log by the forest. The good ones, the ones you can actually eat. You know which ones to avoid, now your cousin didn't once. You push that thought away. By evening, you're home again, your sack only half full. Still, it's something. Enough to toss into the communal pot along with a few shavings of dried carrot and a single bruised apple someone traded in the lane. Tonight's meal is simple. A root mash boiled down until it's soft enough to swallow without chewing. Your mother stirs in a pinch of salt, the last from the jar. That's it. Just that one grainy pinch lifts the whole thing. You eat slowly. Not because you're savoring it, but because there's not much and you want to make it last. You think about tomorrow, about how you'll have to grind some of the barley you gleaned today. The hand mill is old and your arms will burn from the effort, but it will give you flour. Flour means cakes or porridge or even flatbread if there's water and fire. Your sister finishes her bowl first and licks the inside clean. She offers you the last corner of hers, and you accept it without a word. That's how things are done here. Quiet kindness. After dinner, your father speaks of the winter ahead. He says the Lord's granaries are full, which means he'll raise taxes in spring. You wonder how much grain you'll have to give, how many eggs, how much labor. You think about the pigs again, how they'll have to be slaughtered soon. There won't be enough feed to keep them through the cold. Maybe someone will trade fat or offal. Maybe you'll get a strip of skin. Maybe if luck is with you, you'll render lard. Lard is gold. It makes everything taste richer. It coats the tongue. It fills the stomach. It turns bland turnips into something close to joy. You lean back against the wall and let that dream carry you. Later you check on the root cellar. It's dark damp and smells of soil and stone. Inside are the things that will keep you alive if they last. 2 baskets of potatoes, a few beets, a sack of barley with a mouse hole chewed through one side. You plug the hole with straw. You count the potatoes. You close the door. Back in bed, you curl around the ache in your belly. It's quieter now. Not full, not content, just used to itself. You let your mind wander back to the bean soup, to the herbs, to the bread that bent when torn. You hold that taste in your mouth like a prayer. Then the wind picks up, brushing the side of the hut. It rattles the shutters. Winter is coming, and you know what that means. More roots, more mash, more hunger. But for now you sleep. Morning comes with frost. The thatch above your head is rimmed in white and your breath rises in little clouds before your eyes. You rub your hands together, then tuck them under your arms for warmth. The fire in the hearth went out in the night, and no one relit it yet. The cold has crept into everything, into the straw, into the wood, into your bones. You dress quickly. The tunic feels stiff and damp. There's no such thing as fresh clothes, just the same ones worn thinner each day, patched with whatever cloth can be found. Your feet are wrapped in rags beneath crude leather shoes. They do little to stop the cold. Every step on the dirt floor makes your teeth clench. You need food. That's the first thought. Before work, before warmth, before anything else. Your stomach hasn't been truly full since the feast day, and even that was a fluke. You shuffle toward the hearth where your mother is coaxing a flame out of the ash, adding thin twigs, and blowing gently through pursed lips. She nods toward a small pot hanging above the embers. Boiled barley, she says. You nod. What else could it be? You grab a wooden spoon and dip it into the pot. The gruel clings thickly. There's a bit of oat in it, too, to stretch it out, and a few strands of dried herb. No salt. That's gone now. No milk either. The goat stopped producing weeks ago, and you had to trade it before it starved. You sit on the stool near the fire and eat slowly. The porridge is lukewarm, bland, and thick enough to coat your tongue like glue, but it sits heavy in your gut. That's all you need right now, something to keep the chill from gnawing straight through your belly. Outside, the wind is sharp. You trudge out with your father and brother to repair a fence post that the last storm knocked down. The field beyond is bare now, only stubble and churned mud. A few crows perch on the crossbeams watching, waiting for scraps you don't have. You stop by the hedgerow on the way back and check the traps you set yesterday. Small snares, crude and unreliable. One is empty. The other has something. A rabbit. You stare for a second, not quite believing it. You kneel, hands trembling, and remove the animal from the cord. It's not large, but it's food, real food. You carry it home with reverence. At the door, your mother raises her eyebrows but doesn't speak. She takes it from you, her hands quick and practiced. She guts it behind the hut, cleanse it with water from the barrel, and by evening it's simmering in the pot. Rabbit stew. The smell is unlike anything you've had in months. The meat is gamey rich and unfamiliar. You don't even care about the fur still clinging to the edges. Your mouth waters just from the scent alone. She adds turnip and a few barley grains. A single garlic clove saved for a day just like this. Dinner is quieter than usual. You each get a ladleful. Yours has 2 pieces of meat in it. One fatty, one lean. You bite into the first and close your eyes. The texture is soft, fibrous. The flavor is wild like wood and iron and blood and something deep and ancient. You chew slowly. You don't talk. Your father says it's the best thing he's eaten all year. Your sister licks her spoon until it shines. Even your youngest brother is quiet. After the meal, you take the rabbit bones and boil them again. A second pot thinner this time just to draw out every last drop of flavor. That will be breakfast tomorrow. Bone broth stretched thin with root peelings. You wrap the leftovers in cloth and hide them beneath the hearthstones. Food like this doesn't last. It disappears and then it's gone for weeks. You want to make it last longer. You want to bottle the feeling of satisfaction and sip it slowly until winter ends. That night, you dream of traps catching birds, of hares stumbling into your snare lines, of finding a goose's egg nestled in straw. You wake with the scent of rabbit still in your nose. Breakfast is as you expected. Broth light and oily. The surface has a thin sheen and your spoon cuts through it like silk. You drink it straight from the bowl. It warms your chest. Your joints ache less. By mid-morning, you're back to work, splitting logs, gathering what little firewood remains on your family's allowed stretch of land. The Lord owns the woods, and you've been warned before. No felling trees. No gathering too deep. Just fallen branches and scattered brush. Still you glance around. You pick up a pine cone, shake it. Empty. No seeds. Just resin and disappointment. You find a cluster of rose hips. You pick them, crush them gently between your fingers, and smell the tartness. They'll go into the pot tonight. They won't fill you, but they'll brighten the stew. When you return home, your mother is smiling faintly. Someone from the manor gave her a lump of dripping fat beef tallow from the kitchens. Just a handful wrapped in cloth. But it's enough to cook with. Enough to make something feel rich. You eat flatbread that night, unleavened tough, but fried with a touch of that fat. It sizzles in the pan, sends up a curl of smoke, and you watch it like it's magic. You each get one. You chew every bite. And afterward, your lips are slick, your throat warm, and your belly, if only briefly, feels close to content. You fall asleep, dreaming of flatbread frying in a pan over a bright flame. The cold deepens with each passing day. When you wake now, it's not just the frost on the thatch or the sting in your fingers. It's in your bones, in your breath, in the way your muscles refuse to move for those first few minutes. You shiver under the thin blanket curled like a root in the corner of the straw pile until the hearth stirs to life again. Your mother has already lit a small fire using the few sticks you gathered yesterday. She sits on her stool, hunched close, stirring a pot suspended above the flames. The broth inside is thin and gray. You know it before you even taste it, stone soup. Not literal stones, of course, but that's what your family calls it, when there's nothing left to flavor it. Water barley, a sliver of beet, maybe some onion skin or garlic peel, a few dry leaves for scent. You eat it slowly, warming your hands on the bowl. The steam helps thaw your nose. The taste barely there, but it fills you just enough to walk without falling. You head outside into the brittle morning. The air bites harder than before. Your father sends you to check the smokehouse, a rough little shack at the edge of the property. There's nothing hanging in there now. Just a crust of old salt stuck to the timbers and the ghost of cured meat that once was. You run your fingers along the walls, smelling the wood, trying to trick your brain into believing the scent is food. It doesn't work. You return empty-handed. There's talk around the village about a communal slaughter. One of the families has agreed to kill a hog. There's no more feed, and better to share it than let it waste. That's how survival works here. One family gives the animal, others contribute firewood, ale grain, or labor. Then it's divided. Your family is on the edge of that circle. Not poor enough to beg, not rich enough to offer. You might get a scrap or two if you show up and help clean. So you volunteer. You walk to the site near the village green. Others are already there. The pig is tied, squealing, terrified. You don't watch the killing. You step away, gathering kindling and fetching buckets from the stream. When it's done, you help scrape the hide, then carry a tub of entrails to the side. Everything is used: intestines, blood, fat, even the hooves. Hours later, you're handed a sliver of liver and a small curl of skin. That's your share. You take it home like a blessing. That night, the liver goes in the stew pot with barley and cabbage. It cooks slowly, darkening the broth, turning it thick and iron-rich. The smell fills the hut. It smells like strength. You eat the liver in 2 bites. It's chewy, earthy, slightly bitter, but it makes your hands tingle. Your body wakes up to it like a plant in the sun. You drink every drop of broth, lick the bowl clean, and wipe your lips with the back of your sleeve. Your mother saves the skin for tomorrow. It will be boiled, rendered, then fried into crackling. Not much, but enough to make a thin soup feel like more. In the morning, the crackling is fried in a shallow pan. The fat pops and hisses, and for a few brief seconds, the hut smells like a banquet. You each get a piece, crunchy, greasy, salty. Your teeth work hard to break it down, but the reward is warmth, flavor, something indulgent, even if it only lasts a moment. You notice how your father straightens his back afterward, how your brother stops coughing for a little while, how your sister falls asleep faster that night, belly quiet. Meat changes things, not just the body, but the spirit. It's like remembering you're alive again. After breakfast, you return to your tasks. You gather fallen wood. You dig beneath the frozen garden bed for anything. The frost might have missed a carrot stub, a parsnip buried deep. You find one surprisingly firm. You brush off the dirt and tuck it into your satchel like a jewel. You pass by the church and hear the priest reading aloud to a group of children. He's talking about fasting, about hunger as holiness. You wonder if he's ever fasted by force instead of choice. By midday, you've chewed on a crust of barley bread and a single dried bean your sister found near the bin. You sip ale. You keep moving. Supper that evening is better than expected. The broth still holds some of the liver's richness. Your mother stretches it with turnip and crumbled bread. She adds rosemary, just a pinch dried from the last summer harvest. That one herb lifts the whole thing. One leaf of flavor can transform a pot. You eat your portion, then stare into the bowl, imagining more. You've become good at imagining. That night, as you lie beneath your threadbare blanket, you dream again of feasting. You don't dream of luxury, just fullness. Just bread that doesn't break your teeth. Just soup with meat in every spoon. A wedge of cheese, an apple, warm pie. But even in dreams, your peasant stomach can't quite imagine what pie really tastes like. You sleep anyway, and your belly rumbles softly into the dark. The next morning brings sleet. Not the clean whiteness of snow, nor the clear patter of rain, but that bitter clinging in between. It seeps into your sleeves, your boots, your scalp. The air is wet and sharp, and the sky above you is the color of old wool. You rise slowly, every joint protesting. The straw beneath you is damp again, and someone must have stolen more of the blanket in the night, because your feet are freezing. You sit up and pull your knees to your chest, trying to remember what food is left. There's a lump of dough beside the hearth. It didn't rise, not that it was ever meant to. It's just barley flour water and a few pinches of dried greens kneaded in. Your mother cooked it in the embers overnight, buried under ash, hardening as the fire cooled. You brush it off, break it open. It smells of smoke and dust, and the inside is grayish and dense. You chew slowly. It's chewy, then chalky. You sip a little ale to soften the edges. It sticks to your teeth. But it fills your mouth, and that's the only requirement this morning. Outside, the path to the pig pen has turned to slush. You slide with every step, your toes already numb. You're checking for droppings, pig dung goes into the compost, and the compost goes into the spring soil. Nothing is wasted. The pigs grunt at you lazily. You eye them and wonder how long they'll last. One of them has a limp now. You hope it holds on through winter. If it dies too soon, you won't get a fair share. If it survives too long, it'll eat more than it's worth. Such are the cruel equations of a peasant life. You head to the woods, basket in hand, hoping for anything edible. Squirrels have stripped most of the nuts, and the frost has wilted what little remained of the ground herbs. Still, you keep looking. After an hour of scraping, you spot something. A cluster of mushrooms beneath a fallen log, pale and firm. You hesitate. They look familiar, but not quite. You remember the priest warning against false mushrooms. But then again, the priest doesn't eat what you eat. You break one in half and sniff it. Earthy, not sweet, not bitter. Your gut tells you it's safe. You collect them, gently wrap them in a cloth, and head back. Your mother studies them with a sharp eye. They might be field caps, she mutters. Might not. But she rinses them anyway and tosses them into the pot. We'll know by morning. That night's supper is thicker than usual. A stew made from root scraps, a piece of boiled skin from the pig slaughter, and your foraged mushrooms. It smells strong, musky, woodsy, not unpleasant, but different. You each eat carefully, watching one another's faces for any change. You chew slowly. You wait for bitterness, or burning, or anything strange. But nothing comes. Just warmth, just flavor, just fullness. You exhale. That night you sleep well, and more importantly, you wake up. No cramps, no dizziness, no hallucinations, just a new day. Breakfast is leftovers from the stew thinned into broth. You dip hard bread into it and chew with your eyes closed. It's not a feast, but it's better than broth made of nothing. Later, your sister brings word the manor's kitchen is discarding bread scraps. The Lord has received guests, and after the banquet, the servants always toss the trenchers, the thick, flat loaves used as edible plates. Once soaked in meat juice and wine, they're left behind and often fed to the dogs. Or to people like you, if you're quick. You sprint to the manor gate with your brother, hearts pounding. Others have already gathered, holding cloth sacks and empty baskets. The steward eyes the crowd with disdain, but eventually waves you forward. A few crusts are tossed out. You scramble with the others, elbows flying, knees muddy. You catch a piece still soaked, still soft in the center. It smells faintly of rosemary and roast lamb. You don't wait. You bite it right there, not caring who sees. It melts in your mouth. It tastes like wealth. You carry the rest home in your tunic, saving a piece for your mother, one for your sister, and a smaller one for the baby. The smell alone lifts the mood in the hut. You heat the crusts by the fire, let them crisp slightly, and eat them slowly, eyes closed. You pretend you were at that table. that you were served on purpose, that someone passed you the trencher with kindness instead of tossing it like slop. Pretending helps. The next day, there's nothing left of the bread but memory. But the calories have made a difference. Your cheeks have color again. Your limbs move easier. You feel less fog in your head. Food does that. Not just to your stomach, but to your soul. You go to bed that night with a hollow that doesn't ache quite as much. And for the first time in days, you dream not of hunger, but of hands passing you food. The frost stays longer on the ground each morning now. It crusts the grass, creeps along the beams of the hut, and lingers well into the daylight. You wake with your breath caught in front of your face like a ghost you can't shake. The fire's out again. The embers are cold. No one moves quickly in the morning anymore, not from laziness, but from stiffness. It takes time to convince your limbs to bend. Breakfast is little more than hot water steeped with herbs. Not tea, not really. Just a handful of dried nettle and some sorrel stems that somehow held through the frost, tossed into the pot to give the water some color. You cradle the wooden cup in your hands like it's sacred. The heat seeps into your skin, your palms, your chest. The flavor is faint, a little bitter, a little sour. But it's warm. And warmth, more than taste, is what you crave right now. There's no bread today. Not even crust. The flour's low and grinding what little barley remains takes time and strength. Your father says to save it for tomorrow. You agree, but your stomach disagrees, growling softly, as if protesting the decision. Still, there's work to be done. You head toward the edge of the village where the forest meets the open plain. You're looking for kindling, but secretly hoping for more mushrooms, or perhaps a squirrel careless enough to get snared. You bring the sling your brother made from braided cord. You've never hit anything with it, but you practice anyway. As you walk, your boots crunch on the frost. The air smells of pine, distant smoke, and frozen soil. You find a few mushrooms, too soft, too slimy. Unsafe. You leave them. Instead, you pull a few handfuls of moss from the trees, which your mother can use to line the root cellar. Not food, but still useful. You return with empty hands. Back at home, your mother is boiling bones again. Old ones. Picked clean days ago, stored in a sack by the hearth. They've been used already twice, but she hopes there's still flavor left. She adds a little barley, a few dried pea pods, and whatever greens your sister scraped together. The broth is thin, barely more than water with a story. But you eat it slowly, dipping your spoon again and again, hoping each bite will reveal more than the last. Sometimes it does, a soft bit of marrow, a barley kernel that didn't split, a sliver of something that might have once been meat. You lick your spoon clean. In the evening, someone knocks on the door. It's your cousin, soaked and panting with mud on his boots and urgency in his voice. "A deer," he says, "killed near the abbey wall. The Lord's hounds didn't get it." You blink. A deer. It's forbidden, of course. All game belongs to the Lord. Anyone caught poaching even accidentally can lose a hand, or worse. But the deer is dead, and no one saw who loosed the arrow. You follow him quickly, slipping down back paths past fences and hedges. Others are already there, 4 boys, a girl, and 2 old women with baskets. The deer lies in the underbrush, its eyes glazed, steam still curling from its body. No one speaks. No one dares make a sound louder than a whisper. There's no time to skin it properly. No fire. No butchering tools. Just knives and fingers and haste. Someone cuts into the belly. Another starts on the legs. You're handed a chunk meat and sinew still warm. You wrap it in your cloak and run home like a thief. Your mother doesn't ask questions. She takes it, sears it in a dry pan, and tosses it into the pot with water barley and a single bruised apple. The scent fills the hut like a song. Sweet, salty, meaty. You breathe it in, eyes closed, heart thudding. Dinner that night is magic. You get 3 bites of meat, 3 whole bites. One so tender it falls apart on your tongue. Another with a line of fat that melts into your mouth. The third chewy, muscled, full of iron. You savor every second. You don't speak. No one does. It's too precious for conversation. Afterward, you sit in silence holding your empty bowl. Your body feels different already, warmer, heavier, calmer. Your father sighs deeply and leans back. Your sister grins. The baby stops fussing and falls asleep with a full belly. You fall asleep thinking of deer, of forest shadows, of silent feasts and stolen meals. In the morning, the scent still lingers. Breakfast is the leftover stew thinned into broth, but still flavored with the ghost of the deer. It's enough. It's more than enough. For now. The deer stew feels like a distant memory now, even though it's only been a few days. Food doesn't last. Not in a peasant's world. It passes through you quickly, leaving only echoes and faint scents in the air, reminders of what your body once tasted. But echoes don't keep you warm or full. You're back to scraping the bottom of the barrel, literally. Your mother sends you to the store bin behind the hut where you keep the last of the barley. The sack is almost empty. You tip it over into your basket, brushing out every last grain with your fingers. Even the dust. Even the husks. No waste. Not ever. She makes gruel from it thickened with stale bread crumbled in. No salt. No fat. Just boiled grain and thyme. You eat it quietly, sipping between spoonfuls of weak ale. You don't speak of the deer. You don't dare. If anyone saw, if the reeve heard, it could mean trouble. Loss. Punishment. So you keep it inside, just like the warmth that remains in your blood from that night. You cling to it. That afternoon, your father asks you to check the beehives. They're not yours. They belong to the manor. But you help tend them sometimes. Carefully. Quietly. You know better than to take too much. But today you're looking for honeycomb scrap broken pieces left behind after collection, waxy edges, bits of pollen. You smoke the hive gently and lift the cover. Inside, the bees hum like breath. You watch them move, feel the heat of their work against your face, and reach into the discarded pile near the edge. You find some. Just enough. You bring it home like treasure. That evening, your mother melts the comb over low flames, straining the wax through cloth. What's left is barely more than a spoonful, but it smells divine, floral, golden wild. She stirs it into a pot of porridge made from dried beans and oat mash. The result isn't sweet by modern standards, but to you it's as close as anything's come in months. The honey coats your tongue like a secret. It makes the beans taste rounder, the oats softer, the air warmer. You eat slowly. Your sister asks if there's more. Your mother shakes her head. Later, you walk to the edge of the wood again, searching for chestnuts. It's late in the season, but sometimes the squirrels miss a few. You find 2 buried beneath damp leaves, crack them between 2 stones, and carry the meat home. It's soft, just starting to rot, but it'll roast. You add it to the fire yourself, the shells crackling and the inside turning golden and dry. You break one in half and share it with your brother. He doesn't thank you. He just eats it fast, as if afraid it might vanish. You save the other for your mother. That night, you're all quiet again, but this time from exhaustion, not hunger. The meals are small but steady, enough to keep you working, walking, gathering. Your father speaks of the town fair that will come in spring. A trader might arrive. If he does, maybe you'll barter for dried fish, or hazelnuts, or cloth soaked in animal fat. You haven't had fish since last Lent. And that was dried cod, boiled until rubbery and split down the middle with a sour smell and more bone than flesh. But still, it was different. You miss difference. Everything tastes the same now, barley root broth repeat. Even the best meals blend into memory blurred by sameness and hunger. You long for sharpness, spice, crunch, heat. You don't know what cinnamon is, but someone once spoke of it in the chapel. An old man who traveled to the city once saw it in a merchant's pouch. Red-brown powder that made wine sweet and bread sing. You can't even imagine it. But you try. That night, as your body rests on straw and your head curls into the crook of your arm, you picture cinnamon, whatever it is. You pretend you know its smell. You imagine it stirred into porridge, into mead, into bread warm from a real oven. Your belly grumbles, but it's quieter than before. Not because you're full, but because you're used to not being full. You drift off to sleep with the taste of honey still clinging faintly to the back of your teeth. The days grow shorter now. By the time you finish your morning tasks, the sun already hangs low in the sky, like it's tired too. You don't blame it. The earth feels weary, brittle, and cold, its bones stiff with frost. You can feel winter reaching into everything, the trees, the soil, your chest. You cough more these days. Not badly. Not yet. But enough to remind you that sickness hovers close, especially when bellies are empty. This morning's meal is little more than boiled beetroot and chopped cabbage stems, softened with water and stirred with oat scrap. It tastes purple. Not in a sweet way, but in that deep, earthy, almost metallic way. Your mother calls it a blood-warming meal. You hope she's right. You cradle the bowl in your hands and drink it like medicine. It fills your mouth with warmth and your throat with steam. Your stomach thanks you quietly. Outside, the air smells like wood smoke and wet iron. You walk to the fields with a bag slung over your shoulder, heading toward a neighbor's house. His daughter is getting married soon, and they're preparing for the small celebration. Not a feast, not in this weather, but a gathering. You've been asked to help build the spit. It's not for a pig. No one can afford that. But they've saved up 3 hens and a pair of rabbits. The bride's uncle, who once worked in a monastery kitchen, is preparing a pottage of his own recipe. He says it'll have dried fruit in it. Fruit. You don't even know what kind yet. You agree to help for a share. By late afternoon, you're warming your hands near their hearth as the spit turns slowly meat hissing over the coals. The smell makes your stomach contract with longing. You try not to stare, but it's difficult. The fat drips in steady rhythm. The skins darken. The scent wraps around you like wool. You help chop leeks and onions, real onions stored since summer. You fetch water. You wipe the table with cloth. You wait. At dusk, they call everyone inside. The stew is served first. It's thick and strange: onions, parsnips, vinegar, some kind of dried plum. It's sweet and sour and oily the way you imagine noble food must taste. You chew slowly, letting each bite melt into your tongue. You're not used to these flavors. You don't know if you love them, but you know you won't forget them. Then comes a piece of hen, just a wing, crisped, seasoned with something peppery. The meat pulls off the bone with a little resistance, tough but real, satisfying. There's no bread, but someone brings out roasted chestnuts, and you eat 5 before anyone can count how many you've had. Someone plays a fiddle. Someone else claps along. You sit on a bench near the wall and close your eyes for a moment, your belly full enough to hush the constant gnawing. You smile without knowing it. When you leave, they give you a scrap of meat wrapped in linen, a gift from the bride's mother. You don't open it until you get home. Inside is a slice of rabbit already cooked. You share it with your sister in silence. She smiles at you the first time in days. You fall asleep with your stomach full and your mind swirling with plum and onion. The next morning breakfast is the usual barley gruel, gray and bland. But you don't mind. You're still full enough to take the edge off. You even offer the last spoonful to your little brother, who accepts with a toothy grin. By midday, you're helping your father mend a fence again. The wind whistles between the slats. You pause to chew a piece of dried root you keep in your pocket, just something to trick your jaw into thinking you're eating. Later, your mother hands you something wrapped in a wax cloth. From the wedding, she says, "It's fruit. Not dried. Not cooked. A single small apple. It's a little wrinkled and yellowing at the stem, but it's yours." You take it to the edge of the field, sit beneath a bare tree, and bite into it slowly. The juice hits your tongue with a sharp sweetness. Your eyes sting. You don't know why. You chew, swallow, take another bite. It's sour, then sweet, then soft at the core. You eat it all, even the peel, even the stem chewed thoughtfully. The seeds you bury beside you, as if the taste might grow again one day. You return home with the smell of apple still in your mouth, and it makes the gruel taste better somehow. Everything tastes better when your belly carries a memory. The wind howls harder now. It pushes through the cracks in the walls like a thief slipping beneath doorways, prying at the shutters. You huddle closer to the hearth, your hands wrapped around a clay cup filled with something warm, barley broth again, but thicker this time. Your mother added mashed beans to stretch it, and the texture clings to your mouth like wet wool. You're grateful for it, but also tired of it. Your tongue has grown numb to barley. It might as well be air. Still, you drink it. The fire is small today. The woodpile is low. Your father says you'll have to go farther into the woods soon. But the woods aren't just cold, they're dangerous. Not just from the wild, but from men. Poaching, trespassing, even picking up dead wood can cost you dearly if the reeve catches you. But hunger makes rules seem smaller. And you're always hungry. You leave after midday with your brother and a borrowed axe. The snow hasn't fallen yet, but the ground is frozen stiff and the trees are bare as bones. You walk in silence, the cold stiffening your fingers even as you keep them deep inside your sleeves. You find a fallen limb and strip the bark, snapping it into pieces. You look for mushrooms again, but find none. Everything that used to grow is hiding now or dead. Just as you're about to turn back, your brother points toward the stream. There, barely above the ice, sits a bird. A small one, wounded or confused. You move slowly, your breath caught in your throat. It doesn't fly. You crouch, hands open, and in one careful motion you grab it. You don't cheer. You just nod. You carry it home like it's made of gold. Your mother doesn't ask questions. She knows. She plucks it quietly behind the hut, feathers rising like snow. There's barely any meat on it, just enough to flavor the pot. But flavor is everything. That night, dinner is barley again, but this time it's bird-flavored barley. The broth is dark, the steam is rich. You each get a spoonful of meat pulled from the leg and breast and stirred in like treasure. It's not the taste of the bird that fills you, it's the idea of it. You remember what food is supposed to do: comfort, strengthen, heal. And for one meal, it almost does. Afterward, your father tells a story about his youth, about a time when he ate eel roasted on a spit beside a great river. You try to imagine what that tastes like. Oily, maybe. Soft. Salty. You've never seen an eel in your life. Your mother remembers her wedding feast. She says there was a pie made of fruit and cheese. You don't ask where they got the cheese. You just close your eyes and try to picture it. Imagining food sometimes fills more than chewing does. The next morning is bitterly cold. The water in the basin is frozen over. You crack it with a stick and splash your face to wake yourself up. The only food this morning is leftover barley porridge, now thick and gelatinous from the night. You slice it, fry it in animal fat, and call it a cake. You eat it slowly. It tastes faintly of yesterday's bird, and whatever hope is left in the bottom of the pan. You scrape every bit into your mouth, then lick your fingers. Later in the day, you help your mother clean the root cellar. Not because it's dirty, but because it's almost empty. 1 beet, 2 parsnips, a small onion that has started to sprout green. That's it. You sort them, rewrap them in cloth, and place them gently back into the dark. There's nothing else to do but wait for spring, or Lent, or a miracle. That night, someone from the next village visits. He's carrying a jar. Inside is fat goose fat, he says, from a cull they did near the church. He offers to trade for firewood. You have firewood. Your father nods. The deal is made. The jar is small, but inside is gold. Real fat. Greasy, silky, spoonable. Your mother dips her finger in and tastes it. Then she smiles. Supper is bread barely risen, barely soft, but fried in goose fat. The smell alone makes your stomach growl. You each get 1 piece seared on both sides until crisp. You bite into it and close your eyes. Crunch. Soft center. Salt. Meat you can't see, but still taste. You chew slowly. You make it last. Later, when the fire is nothing but embers and the wind whistles like a ghost, you lie in the dark with that taste still on your lips. You touch them, smile faintly, and pull the blanket tighter. Food is never enough. But sometimes, it's just enough to remember what enough used to feel like. The seasons shift slowly in your world, not with sudden snowstorms or blooming fields, but with subtle signs. The mud thickens underfoot. The air changes direction. The animals sleep longer. And you grow quieter, more still. Hunger doesn't vanish, it just becomes background noise, like the wind, like the cold. You wake one morning with that same ache in your belly, dull and persistent like a bruise that never heals. But there's also something else in the air. A scent. Faint but familiar. Smoke, yes, but mingled with it something sharp, pungent, tangy, ferment. Your mother has opened the last jar of preserved cabbage, the sauerkraut she buried in the corner of the hut 3 months ago. It's meant for times just like this. Times when your body screams for something green, something sour, something alive. You take a bite with your fingers and the taste hits like a spark. Your tongue curls. Your throat tightens. But then, relief. Your body wakes up, and it's not meat, not bread, not porridge. But it's different, and that's almost better. You chew each string of cabbage like it's a ribbon of gold. It burns. It cleans. It reminds you of something. Survival isn't about comfort. It's about contrast. That night, the sauerkraut goes into the pot with barley and beans. It flavors everything. The broth has sharpness. Life. Your body leans toward it before your mind can even catch up. You eat fast, then slow, then fast again. You dream deeper that night. You wake warmer. Another day, someone in the village has snared a pheasant, rare, beautiful, forbidden. But it's dead now, and dead things don't belong to lords. They belong to bellies. You don't get much. Just a sliver of breast meat, a spoonful of roasted skin, a bone scraped clean. But the flavor, it sings in your mouth, like wild herbs, like smoke, like something once free. Your mother mixes the drippings with oats the next day and bakes them into cakes, small, flat, dense, but rich. You carry one into the field and break it open with your fingers. It crumbles in your hand, warm and greasy, and you press the pieces to your lips with reverence. Your sister watches you from across the fence. You hand her the larger half without hesitation. She doesn't say thank you. She just eats it. That's what sharing looks like now, silent, instinctive, real. As the last of winter stretches long, the meals become stranger, more inventive. One night it's roasted tree bark shaved down and softened with boiling. Another it's acorn mash leached of bitterness through days of soaking. Your mother grinds it, mixes it with flour, and makes a flatbread that's bitter but edible. Once your father comes home with fish, tiny river ones, mostly bones. But he's beaming. You salt them with what's left from a jar, lay them across hot stones by the fire, and they sizzle like joy. You suck the meat from the bones and lick your fingers after. Food teaches you patience, creativity, gratitude. It also teaches you hierarchy. You've seen the Lord's table once at the harvest fair. Roasted birds with beaks still on platters of cheese pies filled with honeyed nuts. You don't dream of it often, not because you don't want it, but because you can't afford to. Dreaming too high makes the gruel taste worse. But still, sometimes in the quiet moments you wonder, what if you'd been born in that manner? What if your bread were soft, your meat daily, your drink not warm ale but wine cooled in stone basins, and then you remember the joy of chestnut stew, of rabbit skin fried to crackling, of barley crisped in goose fat. And you think maybe joy isn't portion, maybe it's perspective, maybe it's licking the spoon after the broth is gone. Maybe it's sharing half an apple with your sister. Maybe it's finding a single mushroom and boiling it with 3 different roots to make something new. Maybe it's hunger answered, not erased, just quieted. You sit by the fire and stare into the coals. The pot is empty. Your bowl is clean. Your stomach isn't full, but it isn't desperate either. And that's enough. Tomorrow you'll rise again. Grind grain, forage roots, soak beans, chase birds, hope for scraps. Tomorrow you'll taste barley again, and it will still be bland. But tonight, your breath is warm, your hands are steady, and your heart isn't hollow. And for a medieval peasant, that's what a good day tastes like. Now as the fire burns low and your breath steadies, let your body sink a little deeper into rest. The peasant's world was never one of abundance. It was a world of waiting, stretching, inventing, surviving on roots, on broth, on scraps of kindness. It was hard, bitter, but it was also full of quiet miracles, a spoonful of honey, a turnip that didn't rot, a crust fried in animal fat. These were their victories, and now, lying here, you've walked their fields, sat at their hearth, eaten with their hands. You've tasted their barley, their ache, their hope. You've seen how life was measured not in wealth, but in warmth, not in fullness, but in getting just enough. And maybe tonight, that's all you need too. So close your eyes now. Let the steam fade. Let the fire shrink to embers. You've made it through the day, just like they did. And tomorrow, you rise again.